I'm just going to record wiring up of a Nest thermostat to a Worcester Bosch combi boiler, just for record purposes. The first thing to say is this should only be done by a qualified electrician or qualified installer and signed off. So it's not a DIY thing, but I'm going to show you what goes on. The first thing is to show that this is the existing thermostat, and it's a thermostat and a programmable controller built in one, but it's just connected to the boiler by two wires, and I'll show you the two wires as they come into the boiler, and that's what is going to be replaced as a thermostat by the Nest. So that was, for its time, quite a sophisticated thermostat because it had the control functions built into it. This is the Worcester Bosch Green Star Eye, already with the front off and opened up. If you have something that looks anything similar to this, it would be a similar type of boiler. And if I go over to look at this, what you can see is the two existing wires from the old boiler. That's the mains wire, and the grey cable there, that one, is the cable to or from the thermostat. So you've got two wires coming in, which have been around all the time, and I've switched off the power to the boiler there, and I can remove the fuse as well, but I've got a meter just to check it's off. So the only connections that are connected in here are live, neutral and earth, which are at this end, and then what we've got is a live out. It says live in and then live out, and so on the white block you've got a brown wire out to the thermostat, and then a blue neutral wire return from the thermostat to what's labelled on here, if I can get it in focus and light, as LR. There we are, sorry, LR. So it goes out from L, that's 230 volts out L to the thermostat, and back to the radiator symbol LR, so L return. And that's the control wire that comes back in to turn the boiler on and off. And that is operating at mains voltage. So it's a mains voltage thermostat at the moment. And we don't want that for the Nest. The Nest is a 12 volt thermostat, and so that is all taken. All of these are not connected on here. So you can see there's an LR for hot water only, a frost stat there, and various other connections which are not used. So this is a very simple connection here. And without pausing, we go to this, and we've got 230 volt combi boiler, and it shows it here with the Nest installed. This is it installed, but the gap between the two is that how do you relate this to what's in existence? So all of these terminals are Nest terminals, and we'll have a look at the device itself, but what we've got basically is mains power in, something that goes into the boiler to turn the boiler on and off, live and neutral to the boiler, and something which goes to the thermostat, which will be the 12 volts now going to the thermostat, not 240 volts. So what we just have to work out is how this wiring operates here. The tricky bit is, I've got those wires in there. If I read the instructions, it says to mount this device, which is the main controller to the boiler, at 30 centimeters from the boiler. I'm just going to check a few bits online to see other people's experience, because it's Wi-Fi, because it would be easier for me, obviously, if I could mount it quite close to the boiler. If I have to mount it 30 centimeters from the boiler, I've got to pull out some multi-core wire to do all that wiring up and fit it somewhere. That's where the boiler is. There's a kitchen cupboard slap bang next to it, That's the mains input to the boiler there. I could mount it there, but that's closer than 30 centimetres. You know, I could put it on a slightly longer wire and see if it works reasonably well at that distance and let you know my findings. There is a gap down the side, it could be mounted down that gap, but again that's close to the boiler, and I'm assuming they're saying the Wi-Fi doesn't like being that close to the boiler. But my approach, unless I change it at this point in time, will be to sort out the wiring and leave enough length of wire so that I can reposition it if need be and move it further away, which might mean under the cupboards, moving it to somewhere like there. The wires will be quite neatly hidden under the cupboards, but just to get it away from the boiler if necessary. Now, my first comment is a little bit of a pain in the neck. Live neutral shunt coming in, no earth wire shunt coming in. There's shown an earth on the boiler there, right, and an earth connection there. So on this nest, oh, that's the cover for the nest. There it is, live and neutral in there, but then the earth connection all the way over there. So that does mean you have to strip the wire back a long way so that your if your mains cable comes up there, the earth can stretch over to there, and then the thermostat wires will come out from these two, the 12 volt bit coming out there to the thermostat. And the other issue is that it looks as though what you have is to keep the live and neutral power into the right. So the thing that I've got to work out, this thing to work out, is that is obviously turning the boiler on and off. But my boiler, the Worcester Bosch combi boiler, needs to be powered all the time. Yep. Not controlled through a switch, in order for it to do its circulate functions. It's got clever functions where it pumps water around the system even when there's no demand for hot water. So the thermostat will demand hot water. With this system, what would happen, as far as I can tell, is it would close the contacts there, turn the boiler on, the boiler would work when you get demand for hot water. But when the thermostat has reached temperature or is off, then there's no power to the boiler at all, as far as I can tell, because look, it's going through a switch. And what that means, and even if you do it as open therm boiler, the same thing. And so the boiler can't do its maintenance functions that it needs to do. So we'll have to have a look at that. I'm just going to check online, because these are the only circuit diagrams supplied with the thing. We're not dealing with any other things. It's a very simple, compact boiler. Sorry to be going on about this a bit, but this is just, before I do any wiring, what I'm considering as being the things. So in this wiring scheme and in the open therm wiring scheme, there's no permanent power to the boiler, and when the thermostat turns it off, and the earth terminal on this nest is a long way from the live and neutral. I'd prefer it if it was right next to the live and neutral. So you'll have live, neutral and earth there. Just a thought. Yeah, hopefully you get the bit you are interested in out of this video, and you go through the same thought process as I am. So I'm going to say that stuff, but think it through yourself and check it out. So what I've worked out is what needs to go to the nest here from my Worcester Bosch Green Star Eye combi boiler is neutral out, live out to there, and live return back to there. That's 3 wires from the boiler itself, plus I need a 4th wire because I want to connect the earth up. I want to connect the earth of that up as well. And then there's the wires to the thermostat. So I've got some wire out of a multi-core cable. It's certainly big enough. I've got enough brown and blue to represent live and neutral. I've got green, which I can sleeve at either end to represent the earth, and then I've got a choice of red, black or white to use for the live return, so that I've got 4 different colours, or yeah, that would make it easier for me. And if I put that in a bit of trunking, that'll be certainly good enough. So let's just have a look at that, see what I'm talking about. So what you can see there is plenty of earth, spare earth connections. Live in will stay there, will not be moved, so the boiler will be powered. Live out is going to go to the nest. Neutral out is going to go to the nest, so it's got live and neutral from here. Live return is going to come back from the nest to that. So 3 wires would do it if the nest box is not grounded. But I would like to have it grounded, so I'm also going to add a green wire from there to the nest and connect it to the ground terminal. Those 2 wires which are coming in on this grey sleeving, I'm going to need for my 12-volt supply to the thermostat, and the thermostat will be in the same place. So that cable that's in there, those will be taken out and also connected into the nest and used as the 12-volt feed. So it'll be taken out of there completely. So I've got a pencil so I can point to them. The previous live returns, live out and live return from the old thermostat came down here. That's going to be taken out and disconnected and used to supply the 12-volt. So none of the mains in wires on the white block are going to be removed. They're going to stay exactly where they are. So the mains input is going to stay exactly as it was. I'm just going to be using the live out from there. I'm using unsleeved wires because I wanted 4 wires, and the cord grip doesn't screw up tight enough to trap single wires. My intention is for this to be all wired within the confines of the boiler housing, i.e. not thrown out, so it's not like an exposed flex. Might need to consider. Okay, so for testing purposes only, I'll be using this, but for future installation it will either have to be 3-core wire or a multi-core 4-core wire with overall insulation, so you can get it clamped up in the cord grip screws.